Welcome back, everyone, and today is the day we have been eagerly waiting so patiently. Every single day seems like an entire week. We could not get here any more faster, and if you have not voted, today is your day. Make your voice heard, no matter which way you're going. Vote. It is very important. As Americans, we exercise our right to vote. I'll be voting in just a few hours from now, and we'll see what happens. I think we might not even find out who the winner is tonight. I think this could very much be reminiscent of 2000 with Gore versus Bush, where so many litigation and so much legal challenge going on. So I think it will look more like that, or it might be a blowout one way or the other. We'll see. No one truly knows. I don't know. You don't know. No expert knows. But we're going to be looking at an interesting model here, and it's a system for predicting elections, and it's actually been right every single time since 1984, and that's what I want to take a look at in this video. I've done a few videos covering the election already. What I did was I looked at Trump's paths to victory, I looked at Biden's paths to victory, then I did a video covering some final polls the day right before the election, so the polls of yesterday, as of yesterday, Monday, November 2nd. All those links will be down below in the description if you haven't seen those videos yet. I do recommend you watch those, but you don't necessarily have to watch those before this video. You can watch this video first and then go to those. And if you have been enjoying my content, my election coverage more specifically, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up, smash the like button. I would really appreciate it. It does help with that YouTube algorithm. YouTube will push my video out to even more people, and it also makes everyone more in the know and privy to what's going on. So very much advantageous to everyone when you do that. I would greatly appreciate it. And be sure, if you haven't already, hit that big red button, the subscribe button. I don't know what you're doing if you're not subscribed. Hit that big red button, also your notification bell as well. That will just notify you every single time I do make a new one. That you're first line to see that video before anyone else gets to it. So very beneficial when you do that as well. So what we're going to be looking at in this video, this is the final video right before the election. We'll be doing maybe more videos afterwards if we know a winner or not. Or if there's something drastic going on, we'll definitely be sure to cover it. We're definitely covering all the news here when it comes to the election. We also do stimulus news and different news reports. So we really like to touch on everything that's a big event or anything major that you have to know about. So what we're looking at in this video is called the 13 Keys model, and it was developed by Alan Lichtman. He's an analyst and very much an expert on elections. He developed this system. It's the 13 Keys method, the keys to the White House, and it could basically tell you every single time during election year if, in fact, the incumbent will win or if the other party will win. It basically predicts the election, and it's been right every single solitary time since 1984. The way this works is there's 13 ideas or factors or variables during election year, and what has to happen is if 5 or fewer of the keys are false, if they're not true during election year, then the incumbent party wins. So in this case, it is Mr. Trump. But when any 6 or more are false, then the challenging party will win, which in this case would be Mr. Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee. So let's look at those 13 keys now. They don't change. They stay the same, and they're stagnant for every single election. And you'd be surprised at what the outcome is in this case. And we'll take a look at it and also give you my thoughts and opinions on if this model could potentially be wrong. If I think with this 13 key model, if perhaps it can go the other way, even though it's saying one way. So I'll give you my thoughts on it. I already know who it's predicting. You might already know as well if you've heard of this model. But let's go through the 13 keys and say whether they're true or false. We have all the information right in front of myself. So the first key on this list is going to be something called, it's a topic called party mandate, and the threshold condition, basically the scenario, is after the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than it did after the previous midterm elections. Now, interestingly, this says specifically the House of Representatives and not the Senate, which is interesting. I wonder why Alan Lichtman specifically said the House and not the Senate. Perhaps it does have to do with more so the congressional districts. That would make a lot of sense, how the congressional district votes, right? It's even more local and down and grounded, as opposed to the Senate, which is more of a state race. So it's definitely an interesting condition right there. And in this case, it is false. In this case, it is not in favor of Trump, right? So in this event, the incumbent party does not hold more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is not true, right? The incumbent party, which is the Republican Party, does not hold more seats in the House. The House of Representatives is a Democratic majority right now. So that's one false, so we'll keep a tally there. That is one false. So right away, the first one on the list is not in favor of Trump. Key number 2 is going to be the topic of contest, and that means there is no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination, which is absolutely true. Mr. Trump got more than 96, 97% of the Republican vote. No one even came nearly close to him. There was a total blowout there. He really got almost all of his Republican support, which is very telling. Normally, the primary model, which is another election model, could be indicative of how that candidate then goes on to perform. If you look at the primary model when it comes to Mr. Biden, he didn't do very well in the first few, but then he did in fact sweep the remaining states when it was just him and Mr. Bernie Sanders. But Trump, in Trump's case, he totally blew everyone out of the water. It was a decisive, conclusive victory when it came to President Trump in the primaries. One key I would add is that the virus was first getting going. It was first ramping up during the primaries. If you remember, there was that last debate between Biden and Bernie that was socially distant without an audience. But before that, there were debates with a packed crowd and all that. So the virus was not really coming to fruition at that time, which absolutely has an impact on this election. And this model does show that. It does emphasize whether or not a pandemic, a recession, does have an influence on the election. We'll be getting to that as we go down the keys. So for context, right, there was no serious challenger. That is true. That is in Trump's favor. That is correct. There was no serious challenger for the incumbent. And then it comes to key number 3, which is about the incumbency, which is the incumbent party candidate is the sitting president. So the incumbent party candidate is the sitting president. That is true. And the reason why that's important is because, remember, most presidents have been reelected. Only 10 presidents have actually not been reelected in U.S. history. The last one being George H.W. Bush, right? He lost to Clinton. He did not win reelection. And then before that, it was President Jimmy Carter. He did not win re-election. He had only had one term. He was a one-term president. Will Trump be the next? Will he cement his name in history as one of the few one-term presidents that we've had? So the incumbent party candidate is the sitting president. That is true. It's the Republican Party, and he is a sitting candidate. So that is also in Trump's favor, right? So far we have only had one that is false. Only one that is false, if you're keeping track. Then we go to short-term economy. That's the next key. The economy is not in recession during the election campaign. We know that it's not true. We are in a recession right now, or perhaps if you just look at the stock market, you can call it a correction, but we are in recession. The fact is that we've had extremely high unemployment numbers. We've had slow GDP growth. The most recent GDP numbers did happen to be good. It was very good numbers. However, everything before that was the worst since the Great Depression. So the fact is that we are in a recession right now. The economy is not in good shape. So that's another false one. Now that's two. That is 2 false keys for Mr. Trump. The next one, not too different. It's talking about the long-term economy. That's the 6th key. And what it states is real per capita, so per person, economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous 2 terms. Well, that's not true either. The long-term economy is not in Trump's favor. It is actually false. So that's another one that is not in favor of Mr. Trump. If you're keeping track, that is the 3rd false key. Number 7, policy change. That's the 7th key. The incumbent administration effects major changes in national policy. Regardless of what you think of him, he did change policy in a great way. When you look at relationships with other countries, when you look at his economic policies, when you look at his deregulations, when you look at his Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, criminal justice reform, heavier tariffs on other countries, so many different factors. We can go through all of his accomplishments, what you might call them. So that is in favor of Trump. That does swing his way. And number 8, the 8th key to Trump's reelection is not in Trump's favor either. However, I will call back to President Nixon. President Nixon, right, he did have social unrest. And let's just briefly go over that topic. The social unrest key does state that threshold, that condition states that there is no sustained social unrest during the term. That's not true. After the killing of Mr. George Floyd, we did see massive demonstrations. There was social unrest. But like I said, under Nixon, it was the same case. He declared himself the law and order president, and he was reelected. Even though it didn't end so well, he ended up resigning. He was reelected. So that doesn't necessarily have to be true, but it is definitely impactful, and you don't want another false key here when you're already up to quite a few. And number 9, the 9th key in Alan Lichtman's model is scandal. And whether you like him or not, whatever you think of him, the fact is that this president and this presidency has been scandalous. Most presidencies are. There's some form of scandal, some major, some very little. Some of them might even be impeached. And so the fact is that there have been scandals, right? So this condition states that the incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal. We can go down the list. You had the Russia investigation, you had the Ukraine impeachment, you had the hush money payments when it came to Stormy Daniels and all that. You had the firing of James Comey. You had Michael Flynn. You had all this investigation, all of this rampant and turbulent volatility every single day. It has been an exhausting presidency, to say the least. Well, that's also going to be false, right? So there has been scandal. There has been scandals just throughout this first term, which means Mr. Trump would only need one more false key for this model to say that he does not win. Well, the next one, fortunately for him, is going to be in his favor, and that's going to be foreign or military failure. Foreign or military failure. That condition states the incumbent administration suffers no major failure in foreign or military affairs. One that comes to mind would be Jimmy Carter with the Iran hostages, and he did lose re-election. Well, in this case, Trump has not had any major military failures. If anything, he's had major military accomplishments with bringing troops home, the killing of Qasem Soleimani, the killing of Baghdadi, and basically defeating the ISIS caliphate. So many different things. He has actually succeeded militarily. Now, the 11th key on this list is foreign or military success. And that one they're actually saying is false. And that one states that the incumbent administration achieves a major success in foreign or military affairs. In this case, it actually says that it's false. Now, I don't know about militarily, but you could say foreign affairs. We've weakened our relationships with China. They've been at an all-time low. You can also point to the bounties on American soldiers from Russia and other relationships with the other countries. Now, I wouldn't call that a biblical failure, right? I don't know that this would have so much of an impact in this particular model. I don't believe it would have such an impact on the election. In this case, it is giving it to Biden, though. So according to that model, he has reached the threshold for actually losing re-election. When any more 6 or more of those keys are false, that means the incumbent party will lose. But there's actually 2 more that we have to look at, and that's going to be Incumbent Charisma. That's actually the 12th key. And that states that the incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero. Well, that one they're also saying false. I suppose if you look at approval ratings, that would turn out to be false. He has one of the lowest approval ratings of a president in quite a long time. It's fluctuated according to what polls that you look at. It could be very low or right there on average. At some points during the presidency, he actually was above Obama. But the fact is that he's had quite a low approval rating for most of his presidency. And then the 13th key is very interesting. It's actually the challenger charisma. That's the last key on Alan Lichtman's model. And that states that the challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. That one in this model, they are saying, is in fact true. Biden is not exceedingly charismatic. He doesn't nearly match up to an Obama. In fact, most of the vote for Biden is actually a vote against Trump. So in that 13th key, that is in Trump's favor. However, according to this model, Trump would actually lose re-election. So according to Lichtman's model, he does say that the Democrats will win this election. What are your thoughts? Do you think this model is accurate? Do you think it's substantiated? Do you think we could actually utilize this to predict every election? What are your thoughts on this model? Let me know down below in the comments. But that was the 13 keys model. It is election day. More coverage is to come in future videos. This is my last video right before the election. That's all we have for you. If you did get value out of this video, give it a big thumbs up, smash the like button. And if you want to see more videos on my channel, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell as well. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.